So first, a little bit about myself. As seen here as Madam Mold, every collection's worst nightmare in the CCAHA vault of all places. I currently have the privilege of serving as communications specialist for DIPSNY. It's a joint program of the New York State Archives and New York State Library with services provided by CCHA. If you're in New York and haven't already, please check out our website. We have a deadline for our planning and assessment services coming up on November 5th, and we strongly urge you to apply. The benefits are myriad. The application isn't difficult. You should apply. For everyone out of state or international, you should still visit our website. We have a great resources page and over 55 webinars, all content relevant for cultural institutions and available for free. And of course, you should follow our Instagram at DHPSNY. So although we aren't technically a collecting institution, I like to think of us as a collection of collecting institutions. I hope you find the information I share today from my experience to be helpful, whether you have an established social media presence or if you're just starting out. So today we'll cover how to plan the basis of your process, optimize your profile, post strategically, expand your community, and stay current and measure your program goals. And here's my 2019 Halloween costume as the Motha Lisa, obviously. Another collection's a villain. You can see them all under the hashtag Collection Spectre. More on hashtags in a bit. So before we jump into the actual planning of the process, let's take a minute to ask ourselves and dissect why Instagram. Well, I think the statistics speak for themselves. For the past 10 years, Instagram has been one of the fastest growing and highly engaged social media platforms. As of 2021, it has roughly 1 billion users, with around 78% visiting at least one business profile a day. That's your collecting institution. Continually growing, Instagram allows organizations to interact with users and each other in unique ways that generate engagement. It's also image-based. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then for museums, libraries, archives, and other collecting institutions, an Instagram account is a storytelling gold mine. An increase in visibility can lead to an increase in your visitor numbers, membership, donations, and more. Also, more than any other platform, in my opinion at least, I think it's a great creative outlet. So above everything else, please have fun. So plan your process. Really, step one, you have to take a step back and think about what is your institution's vision and personality? What are you hoping to accomplish? The answer to that question should inform the rest of your process. Also, to consider, how will this be different from your other social media accounts, assuming you have them? If this is your first, that's okay too. But if you have other ones, you want it to have a slightly different purpose. And who are you trying to reach? Who could you reach that maybe you haven't even considered? And of course, how can you use images to tell us who you are? We'll get into captions a little bit later. If you don't know the answers to these questions yet, do not fear. Pike syndrome is unfortunately too common among social media managers. A pike, pictured here, is a predatory fish that, if placed in a glass enclosure, will stop hunting after a few unsuccessful attempts of breaking through the glass. This persists even when the glass barrier is removed. It is learned helplessness. So the moral of the story is, do not be paralyzed by imaginary circumstances. If a post or several perceive to fail or just not even do well, don't take it personally, keep trying. Experimentation is key. Instagram is and should be, like I said, beneficial to your organization and fun. The only way to test the waters and see what works and what doesn't is to try it out and measure the analytics. More on analytics in a bit. So while brainstorming how you can best present yourselves in pictures, here are a couple examples. On the left is a snapshot of Dipsney's Instagram. Our content and persona is much more playful and narrative driven than our Facebook or Twitter. We often share our Instagram content on the other platforms, but not so much the other way around. And aesthetically, our content lends itself to a lot of neutral tones with splashes of color. You should have a refined palette, and you should try to be relatively consistent in how you look. So it not only appeals to people who are just visiting your profile at a glance, but also people who follow you, when they see a photo, recognize that it's you and they can like it or engage with it in any way. On the right is CCAHA's account, and it's all about technical work in conservation and staff doing this work behind the scenes. There's a really large audience, apparently, for preservation tech nerds. So keep in mind, if you get any treatment now or in the future for collection items, make sure to document it or let your contractor do so. Because if it fits with the vision and mission of your institution, it could be really good Instagram material. So after we thought about a little bit about how we want to portray our institution, the place to start, whether you have an established Instagram or not, is your username and profile. If your institution hasn't yet set up an Instagram account, you're going to want to choose a concise name without special characters that's easy to remember and say in passing. You don't want to say it's DHPSNY_345. DHPSNY is hard enough. Also, be sure to choose a business profile in order to access more advanced features like analytics. If you already have a profile name that doesn't populate in an Instagram search of your institution, it's imperative you add social media buttons to your website, newsletter, everywhere possible, because social media managers like me can't find you. So pictured here with the yellow arrows, the bio in your profile is really important. It's your organization at a glance. It can be really challenging to do in 150, there's a 150 character limit. So if your name isn't Documentary Heritage and Preservation Services for New York, you have a benefit there. So if you have space, I would suggest adding a hashtag like seen on the left here with the National Archives. They list My National Archives. It's very helpful. So whenever we're going to mention them, we're going to use the hashtag that they have in their profile. More on hashtags and tagging in a little bit. You're also going to want to include a relevant link in your bio. This can generate additional engagement on your posts, add additional traffic on your website, and make it easy for followers to find out more about you. Although the platform doesn't enable hyperlinks in posts, mentioning the link in a caption, as in this example, saying "see link in bio," is a great way to direct viewers to where they can find more information. And it's good to also list the link as opposed to just saying link in bio for posterity reasons, if it's going to be a link that, you know, makes sense in the future. So the third step is posting strategic content. So first, who should post? Decide who's going to run the account. This can be one person or several. Users can toggle between business and personal accounts without logging out for easy access. Multiple people can log in with one password. However, I suggest if multiple people are posting on one account, that you have a very strong social media policy so your content is consistent. And there's a link to the sample plan here that we will be sharing after this presentation. Okay, so what should you post? In step one, we talked about determining your institution's vision for the account by asking what you're hoping to accomplish. Once you have a general sense of how you want to present yourself on this image-centric platform, now it's time to find great content. And by the way, this is going to be different for everybody, even within the same field. So you can't just copy someone's ideas. This is about finding your promotional voice. And it just takes a little bit of time and some experience. Social media experts will tell you the secret to a successful account is posting great and consistent content. Luckily, you all have a wealth of great content in your collections. Show them off. So what makes good content? First and foremost, quality images. And remember, the most important rule of thumb is quality over quantity. If you've had your collections professionally digitized, or you've had professional photos of your institution taken, or even if you have a good camera, that's all really great. However, you don't need specialized equipment to take good photos. There's just a few simple rules ranging from common sense techniques that we should all be reminding ourselves of to more sophisticated psychology that we social media managers think about. So remember to wipe off your camera lens. This may seem trivial, but it's often forgotten and it makes a big difference. When taking a photo, be mindful of the background. Avoid busy or unsightly backgrounds when possible. Don't use your phone's zoom feature. Unless you have a phone, one of those new fancy phones with an optical zoom, I honestly don't know really anything about, but I hear they're okay. But old-fashioned zooms on the camera, bad idea. And feature people in your pictures. This doesn't mean you can't feature your collections as well, but faces have been shown to increase posts by around 40%. And it can make your posts more personal. And give you an option to tell a story about the person and or collection item. Here is my former colleague, Amelia, weighed down by all the reports she had to do for Dipsney. So more photo tips. Use filters that look more natural. We like to use apologies. We like to use Claridon, Gingham, and Juno. Also keep in mind, you can adjust the level of the filter. Less is usually more. Also to keep in mind that on Instagram, vertical images, such as this recent post on the right of the rib of Jane McCrae, will appear larger on people's screens than square or horizontal images. So when possible, post horizontal. Also, when you're taking your own photos, take advantage of natural lighting. Try to shoot near, but not directly in natural light when possible. The magic hour is called the magic hour for a reason. When the sun is low above the horizon, it reduces the amount of red light. More blue light is scattered, so the sun appears more reddish. In addition, the low angle makes very beautiful shadows. Also, take advantage of biophilia. That's the innate appreciation people have for nature, especially in this age of climate change and during the pandemic. We'll get into that a bit more in a bit. So nature shots, shots of people. And then there's the rule of thirds. Your eyes tend to focus on the inner four corners of the center square in a grid highlighted in this picture. The image on the bottom uses this rule correctly. See, the sun is in the corner of the grid. So instead of always doing a centered image, sometimes you can use this strategically to just take advantage of the rule. Lastly, don't forget about the Bader-Meinhof effect. This is the cognitive bias that explains how a name, word, or thing that has come to our attention recently appears with improbable frequency shortly afterwards. You get a red car, you see everyone else driving red cars. So the more you develop your unique voice and get noticed, the more people will notice you. Even when they see something else, they might even associate it with you because of Bader-Meinhof. Captions. There's no correct length for how long or short your captions should be. But keep in mind that users will only see the first 3 lines. That means you want to focus on creating a compelling headline that makes people want to click, read more. They say there are 2 types of Instagram users, readers and scrollers. But with a good image and compelling headline, you can even stop the scrollers in their tracks. In the example on the right, we began a caption with bodies in transit, making clear people realized what was captured in the photo and its unusual content, boiling it down to its essence. And while thinking about how to communicate with your audiences, remember you want to be authentic and think back to the first question. What is your organization trying to accomplish? How do you want to be perceived? How can you best project yourself through this visual platform? And it's going to be different for everybody. But what's not different is just language in general. As I read in the New York Times this week, there was this analysis that being informative, truthful, relevant, and clear is really the foundation of good communication. Now, I would add humor in there too, but it's harder to force. A little bit more on that later. So while posting your strategic content, be smart about hashtags. As seen peppered throughout this presentation, hashtags are simply words or phrases preceded by the number or pound sign that connects topics. They can be a great tool for discovery, or you can even create your own to group images for sharing. We've created the hashtag DipsneyPets just to organize all our pet photos, and so everyone can see them in one place. It's great. This is the purpose of hashtags. This is why they were created in the first place, and it's one good use of them. Perhaps more importantly, do your research. Before posting, you should make sure you're not missing a potential hashtag goldmine. In Instagram Insights, more on that in a bit, you can see how many people found your post via hashtags. Here's a list of hashtags relevant to our field. Though it's not a complete list, there are so many, but it's a great place to start. And again, we'll be sharing this. I personally like to use as many possible hashtags relevant to the post. keeping in mind as a rule of thumb to avoid ones when listings are over 1 million, as seen in this example of the hashtags. It has over 25 million posts tied to it. That's not going to help you. You're not going to be at the top of that feed. No one's going to see you. So it's just ignore those. Above 1 million, useless. You also want to be cognizant about your hashtag placement. When possible, keep them at the bottom of your post or even in the comment, because you don't want to direct people away. Also, an important note, if you've noticed, we capitalize the first letter of every word in a hashtag. This is for accessibility reasons. Screen readers can only read the hashtags if they're formatted this way. So we highly suggest that you format them this way, because besides being, morally right, it's also expands your audience. You can also add alt text in advanced settings, but we don't have enough time to cover that today, but please reach out if you want to know more information. Another great tip is to always geotag locations. As the yellow arrows are pointing out, they gave us the option to explain that we took this picture at Storm King Art Center or the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library. There's been studies that say that these geotags vastly increase engagement, separate from a hashtag. And it can also connect you to local communities. So when should you post? My advice is that you should post consistently. Instagram will tell you under insights the best time to post, as displayed in the bottom left hand corner. Today, 3 o'clock would be best. So I better get on this post. But please try to avoid posting for the sake of posting. Remember, always, always, always quality over quantity. Also, it's been shown that if you happen to have the time and resources, posting 3 times a day doesn't do you any good. Your engagement will automatically go down. I know we don't have those kinds of resources, but the point is, if you have 3 amazing photos or videos that you put time into, spread them out over the course of a week or even multiple weeks. If you see a post doing really well, it might not be the best time to post your next post. Let that one post play out. And early engagement is key. The algorithm is always changing, but its main purpose is to maximize users' experience, to give them content that they like. Your post performance in the first few minutes up until 24 hours is key to its success. So there is no shame in liking or engaging your post from a personal account or sharing it with your colleagues and asking them to like that, because that means it will get more reach. So let's talk about how to grow your community. Instagram challenges are a great way to get you to think creatively about what to post. I'm also a multimedia artist, and sometimes if I don't have a prompt, even if it's just something I set for myself, it's difficult to come up with something because the possibilities are endless. So these challenges are like really great at making you think about what you have and how you can portray it and how you can do it like different, because they're always open to like however you read them. There's no wrong way to do it. No one's going to judge you. It's just it's a fun thing to do, and it's a great just creation tool. So we love IG Library's monthly Wednesday challenge. As seen on the right, that's my colleague Kate showing off some ink representing tools of the library trade. And also the US National Archives monthly hashtag party that happens the first Friday of every month. And the left shows from a couple years ago, it was archives pool party, and it was old fashioned. So we started it with grab your swimming dress because that's what they wore back then. Also, remember to tag other accounts in your posts, both in the captions and the photos themselves. If you tag or mention another organization or a follower in a picture, the post or comment will appear to them. Your name will pop up. Tags are preceded by the @ symbol though, or by the way. And this is good because you're keeping, yourself relevant and reminding people that you exist on this platform. And it's an attention economy. We're all vying for attention in one way or another. You're also going to want to remember to respond promptly to comments on your pictures and videos, etc. Beyond posts, direct communication through comments gives you more personal interaction with your followers and sets you apart from the crowd. The account you're connecting with is going to pay attention, and they're probably going to pay more attention to you. Also, the algorithm is going to reward the contact. Another good tip is to follow your supporters' accounts. Like I just said, we reach out to others on the platform, we make friends. We have a understanding that you like my post, I like your post. Keep me top of mind. You guys are great. So, and the challenges are also a good way to find people to follow. So in addition to participating in challenges and engaging with other accounts, try to think outside the box, especially when it comes to sharing your collections. During the pandemic, the Museum of English Rural Life attained stardom for posts like this chicken in pants and asking people to send them their best drawing of a ham. That's on the left. On the right, the Getty Museum asked people to recreate their collection items with their own personal experiences, which was also a success. You don't have to copy these ideas. I don't think there's anything wrong if you think it would really apply to your mission and your collections. But they're just examples of ways that it's not just simply posting, professional digitized photos of your collections. You're starting to think about it. You're starting to find your promotional voice. Also, throughout the pandemic, posts that are meditative and channel serenity have been doing really well. Even our own, we shared this earlier this winter, and it really resonated. And we even got offers to have it on a professional travel site. So serenity is great. And this is also an example of biophilia, the innate appreciation for nature. So once you've started or you are consistently posting, you want to keep your account updated. Once it's crucial to continue to post regularly so that the content on your account doesn't become outdated and always represents your institution at its best in the present. And it's important to learn how to read the numbers and make a plan. Analytics can't tell you everything. Across all platforms, especially the big numbers or estimates, they can't tell everything, but they can tell you a story that you wouldn't normally get, that you can use to your advantage. Tracking Instagram metrics can fit into your larger social media plan and should also fit into a larger marketing plan that connects all the elements of your communication. We don't have time to go into that, but if you have questions, please feel free to contact me. So it's important to implement a strategy that outlines your goals, plans, and success tracking. Without a written plan, it can be difficult to understand how Instagram is impacting your institution. There has to be some level of return on investment, which is completely doable, and I think it almost always is, but it's important to track. So while you're tracking numbers on Instagram, don't get caught up solely in likes. While they've become a metric used to track popularity, they've been criticized for overlooking quality, which I completely agree with. Instagram has been testing this feature for some time to hide them, and I think if you feel comfortable, you absolutely should. Along with saves and shares, under Instagram Insights on your business page, you can see how many individuals saw your post, the reach, and how many times your post was seen in total, impressions, as well as where people are coming from when they discover your post. It's either going to be their main feed listed as home, from hashtags, directly from your profile, or from some other means, for instance, a direct message or the discover page. if you're just starting out, I recommend tracking all these analytics monthly and setting aspirational but attainable goals in a social media plan. And there's again, the sample plan. You will be sent this. You want to pay attention to timing. Do you notice the number of newsletter opt-ins surge in the week following a post? You'll want to record and compare metrics within the days and weeks before and after a social media post across your other platforms. That way you can accurately attribute change with your social media efforts, and Google Analytics is a great way. They can tell you how many people from your social media are going to your website. If you want more information on that, please contact me. So those are the basics. Does anyone have any questions?
Hello, everyone. I had some technical issues myself on the back end, which is why you see two me's in the room now. So if you did put any questions in the chat along the way, I can't see them now, so you might want to repost those. But otherwise, feel free. We'll give it another minute. If you have any questions for Marissa, to drop those in the chat. All right. Well, oh, we got one. Oh, we got a couple. Awesome. You see this, Marissa?
Yeah. Okay, so first there's a question from Ann Cook. In a really large agency, how would my library Instagram connect with their larger goals? Are you saying your library's large? Or how you can connect to larger agencies? Sorry, Anne, if you can just clarify that. Next, we have, do you have any pointers for starting an institutional Instagram from scratch? Yes. Start with your profile. You want to fill it out to the best of your ability. And like I said earlier in the presentation, think about how you want to portray yourself. And experiment. Really, that's what you have to do. You set up a plan. These are the numbers we're going to track. Maybe we'll track them all at first. We don't know which ones are going to be the most important, but we're going to set up the plan. We're going to track the numbers. We're going to see what works, and we're going to change when it doesn't work. We're going to post something else, if that makes sense. Okay, I have a question. How do you post someone else's content? That's a great question. So you're either going to want to get express permission. Okay, well, let's back up. There's a way you can repost, which will credit the organization. That's one way to do it. There are different apps where you can just repost, and it's called reposting on Instagram. But if you want to just share the content, I would suggest contacting the institution and getting express permission. Yes, just like you said. Okay. Anne clarified that her library is a small part of a larger institution and how to connect with their goals. Well, I would think about how many of your goals are overlapping. So for instance, DIPSNY is part of CCAHA. We have a lot of overlapping goals, but we also have our own personality. So, and in our marketing plan, we focus on both and that of the New York State Archives and New York State Library. So I think it's kind of important to consider all the goals plus your own goals, if that makes sense. But you can boil it down, and I haven't had trouble, with the overlapping nature of it. Eugene, Facebook, so Russell Clark asks, can I switch to a business page? Is that what it means when a profile says switch to professional account? I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to guess yes. And yes, you should, if you're going to be representing your institution. Sheila asks, we started our Instagram about 2 months ago, and experimentation has been the best strategy. Yep, that's right. Jacob asks, has anyone made use of video content? What has worked best for producing these materials? So a couple years ago, video was on the rise like crazy, but the most recent studies have shown that it's great, and especially I didn't really talk about Instagram stories, which is a great feature that you can also use as an alternative method of sharing your content, because the stories only last 24 hours. You don't have to be as professional if you don't want them to last. They're not going to stay up. So that's a great way to share video, and you can also share it on your channel. There's nothing wrong with that. The waterfall picture that I shared earlier, it was a video. Marion asks, my library currently uses Instagram to promote events and new items. Occasionally, we add posts from the archives. Is this wise, or would it be better for the archives to have its own account? See, I don't think I can really answer that question without knowing more, but my gut reaction is that, yeah, it would be better for them to have their own account, or for you to highlight them more in your account. Either I think would work. It would just take a strategy. If you have more questions, you please contact me.